Before the clink, before the chill, before the glass sweats on your hand and the first sip hits your throat, this story is nothing but heat. Not cute heat, not cozy heat, real heat. The kind that makes metal glow, that melts sand and forces it to obey. Somewhere far from your table, a furnace is already roaring, turning dust into lava. Just so one day, you can tilt back a bottle, hits and forget where it came from. Tonight, we remember. We're going inside the glass bottle megafactory, where sand gets burned, softened, sliced, and blown into shape. And every clink starts here. Glass doesn't start as elegance. It starts as chaos. Trucks roll in heavy, dumping white sand into hungry concrete pits. Hot sun catching each grain like tiny sparks waiting for ignition. Right beside it, mountains of broken glass, cullet, K, and shift with every swipe of a loader bucket. Old bottles, shattered and forgotten, waiting for a second life. Sand, soda ash, limestone, cullet, each one weighed, measured, dragged into the factory by thick steel conveyors. In the batch house, it all falls together into one restless pile. Powders and crushed glass spinning in a steel mixer, tossed and folded until the chaos looks like a recipe. From here, nothing is random. Every kilo is calculated for one purpose: to survive the fire. At the heart of the factory, the furnace waits. A giant brick box full of light, burning so hot you never see the flames, only what they do. The mixed batch slides forward on slow steel belts, then disappears through a feed port, like dry snow falling into a volcano. Inside, there is no patience. The raw mix hits a lake, molten glass, thick, glowing, rolling in slow, heavy waves. Bubbles fight their way to the surface. Cold corners dissolve, sharp edges blur, then vanish. Hours pass in minutes here. What went in as sand and scraps comes out as one continuous ocean of liquid fire. It sticks to nothing. It respects nothing. It moves how it wants. Molten glass wants to be wild. The line makes it behave. At the end of the furnace, the lava spills forward through a narrow channel, glowing white-yellow, so hot that air above it shimmers like a mirage. Then the factory does something brutal and beautiful. A feeder head lets the glass stream out in a thick, controlled rope. Below it, mechanical shears wait. The rope stretches, drops, and snap. The shears slice through the flow, cutting it into gobs, heavy, glowing droplets, each one the exact weight of a future bottle. Para after gob falls, a rain of lava chunks dropping into angled chutes, bouncing and spinning, still soft enough to deform, but dense enough to hold together. Every gob is a promise. This much glass, this much heat, for this one bottle. Nothing more, nothing less. The gobs don't get time to think. They hit the molds while they're still glowing. An army of cast iron cavities opens and closes in perfect rhythm. Blank molds, blow molds, all moving like a mechanical heartbeat. A gob drops in, hits the bottom, and slumps for half a second, thick and exhausted. Then air arrives. Compressed breath from the machine slams into the molten core, pushing it outward, making the glass climb the walls, stretch into the neck, kiss every curve of the mold. Inside, it's loud, tight, and unforgiving. When the mold opens again, the lava is gone. In its place, but a newborn bottle, still red at the shoulders, orange at the base, glowing like it remembers how it felt to be liquid. They march away in rows, hot, identical, not quite solid, not quite safe, but definitely bottles now. Glass hates sudden change. Cool it too fast, and it cracks out of spite. So the factory tucks every bottle into a long, low tunnel, the annealing lair. Dozens of red-hot bottles ride in together on steel plates, glowing like a quiet army sliding into a horizontal oven. Inside, temperature drops in stages. Not kind, not cruel, just controlled. The glass relaxes. Internal stress fades. The glow dies slowly, from orange to dull red, then to clear, hard transparency. When the bottles step out the other side, they look calm, cool, almost innocent, like they weren't lava minutes ago. But the line is not finished with them. They pass through tunnels of light, backlights, lasers, cameras. Necks are scanned, walls are checked, bases are judged. A tilt in the neck, a bubble in the wrong place, a hairline scar, one burst of air, and that bottle is pushed off the belt into a cullet chute, headed right back to the beginning. Only the perfect ones get to keep going. The survivors move faster now. Clear, cooled bottles rush along conveyors in tight shoulder-to-shoulder formations, glass ringing softly as they brush against each other. A thin, invisible coating mists over them, a protective film to help them glide, to keep scratches away when they start colliding with the real world. Then the line starts thinking in groups. Bottles are corralled into perfect grids, lifted and lowered into cardboard boxes or plastic crates. Machines wrap them in film, heat tunnels shrink it tight until each pack looks like a single block of captured light. Boxes stack onto pallets. Pallets roll toward open trailers. Trucks close their doors on thousands of empty, perfectly quiet bottles, each one waiting for a life you'll never see. Somewhere later, in a bar, a kitchen, a crowded street, one of those bottles is ice cold, sweating on a table. You hear it before you touch it, that clean, bright clink when glass meets glass. Inside is fizz or juice or water. Outside is nothing but transparency. No hint of sand, no hint of fire, no trace of the furnace that burned for days, just to make that one moment feel simple. When it's empty, it might shatter, it might be tossed, or it might land in the right crate, the right bin, come back as cullet, and start this whole hot story over again. From sand to lava to bottle to shards to sand again. Every time you raise glass to your lips, there's a little bit of furnace in it, and somewhere, A megafactory is already sweating for the next clink.